Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Yes, it's really me. Did you miss me? It really is me, and oh gosh, I've missed doing this too. I hope you missed me as much as I missed you. And here we go today with the spirit world. They really do, The spirit world sees all. And of course, standing to my right side, I have my spirit guide, Great Eagle, in our wherever she is, I should say, is our facilitator, Chris. Say good morning, Chris, and
Good morning,
um,
everyone.
and good morning to all of you out there. We're going to sort of hold off a little bit because I know that some of you will be surprised. Did you think that I was never coming back? Did you think you lost me? Has it been so long that you've forgotten all about me? Anyway, here we are. And so we're going to give you a few minutes. And in that few minutes, uh, I'm going to talk a little bit about what has happened over the last few weeks. It seems it's a very dismal day here in Florida. It's dismal. The weather is dismal, but the sun is shining within, so that's the most important thing. But also, I'm going to briefly tell you. I had a great Christmas. I had a wonderful Christmas, actually. I had a lovely New Year. I was attacked in New York when I was there in a cinema, by the way. A horrible experience, really awful experience, but we'll move past that. And I may or may not explain that to you later. But it is, people say to me, well, it is New York, and what do you expect? And that's such a shame, isn't it, that we should expect to have bullies and bad behavior and people attacking us, whether it's verbally or physically. It's such a shame. Years and years ago, people all over the world were desperate to come to New York City, and it was the place to be. And but not anymore, unfortunately, because there's so much violence. Not just in New York City. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying just New York, but there's so much violence, so much disrespect. You can't walk down the street without being disrespected, shouted at, spit on, or whatever. In some parts of, I guess, any city, not just New York City. It's such a shame that these things happen. It's such a shame that these things are happening. It's very interesting to note that uh, in America, as we do in England, and then I should say Great Britain, as we do in most civilized countries, we teach our children about bullying, and we teach our children about standing up to bullying and not allowing bullying. But then when it comes to watching bullies screaming and raging and cursing at us, we look around, hopefully, to see if anybody is going to stand up for us or to stand up against the bully, not necessarily for us, but to stand up against the bully. You know, and then disappointment reigns because nobody stands up, nobody speaks up. Everybody, it seems, is sort of shrinking back, afraid to stand up just in case this person's got a gun or a knife or the violence ensues and so on. And at the same time as we're telling our children to stand up to bullies, we're not standing up to bullies, and we're allowing these things to happen out of fear. And where am I going with this? I'm just one of those people who will stand up no matter what. And isn't that what we teach our children to do? Don't be afraid of the bullies. If you face the bullies, they will back off, and it's very true. Um, but our children, it is true to say, and I always teach my daughter this. I've always have taught my students this. I've always said this to people who need advice on their children, because people come to me for advice on all sorts of things. And it is true that our children do not learn by what we tell them. They learn by what we show them. And even though we're saying to them, don't do this or don't do that, how about, we say to our children, for example, don't curse, don't use bad words. And at the same time, the next thing they see is screaming at someone and using all kinds of profanities. They're not going to take any notice of the fact that you said, don't do that. They're going to say, well, they do it, so it must be okay. Our children learn from our actions much more than they learn from our words. Our children learn to stand up or to shrink back. Our children learn to study or just, shrug our shoulders. Whatever it is that, however it is we are, we teach our children. And they watch us. As we know, we think very often. Those of you who have kids or grandkids will know this. Very often you're thinking you're having a private conversation with, let's say you're standing there with your daughter, as I have done this last few weeks, and you're standing there, you think you're having a quiet conversation, and all of a sudden the little one in the background, who you think is so far away that he can't hear, says, well, what does that mean? Or why? What? Who are you talking about? Who did this? So, little eyes and little ears do seem to know and to watch everything that we are doing, much more than everything that we are saying. So anyway, so aside from having been attacked and being or someone trying very hard to intimidate me and scream at me in a theatre full of people watching. What was it? Wicked, and part Wicked Part Two. Despite all the children there, this person was screaming profanities, leaning over me. In a very aggressive manner, and the language, he didn't have a very large vocabulary because he could only use a few words. And it's true that most people would be intimidated, and it seemed that the whole of the theatre was intimidated because they let him rage and rave and spit and you name it. And when he'd finished, then it was time for me to stand up to the bully, and which I did. And you don't want things to escalate, but at the same time, if you're being bullied, we teach our children, don't we? If you're being bullied, you've got to stand up. And I'm a person who is intimidated by very little. When you've been as fortunate as I am to have done astral traveling, when you're fortunate enough to have been able to travel through time and space and going back in time or forward in time, where you have been fortunate enough, as I have been, to connect with those who are supposed to be dead and have great conversations with them. I suppose, I'm in a fortunate position in that, I'm not easily intimidated by anything. Unfortunately, my grandson was with me and he was very upset by the whole thing. So that made it all the more important for me at the end of all of this to stand up to the bully, because I have to show my grandson. I can't tell my grandson to stand up to the bullies and not do it myself. So we have to show our children and our grandchildren what we're talking about. In other words, we can't just talk the talk. I think I love this phrase. I don't know who started it. It's probably an Americanism, which is also great. Don't talk. You don't. If you're going to talk the talk, you learn. You need to walk the walk, and I love that phrase because so many people in our world. I'm sure so many people who you all know out there love to talk the talk, but when it comes to walking the walk, in other words, when it comes to living your faith, when it comes to not just having faith, but living it on a daily basis, I am, I am sure that I am one of those people who, I'll raise up the banner and I will live my faith every day. And I will not only talk the talk, but walk the walk. Anyway, so Chris, how are we doing over there? Is there wait? Is there anybody there?
Yes, they were raring to go in the chat room this morning. So many people so many of
Okay.
your raving fans from all
Raving
over saying
fans?
hello.
Raving fans?
Yes.
Hey, 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 I love my fans. I love those people who love this subject. So, while ever there are people out there who are interested in this subject and come to me to learn more, I'm going to sit here and give you everything I've got. All right, let's have some questions then, Chris.
All right. I don't have questions yet. I
Oh,
do have
oh,
comments.
okay. Let's have the comments then.
All right. Mark says, I hope you were not hurt in that episode in New York City. It was very sad because I love New York City.
I know. Me
I
too.
will not tolerate any type of bullying. I was horribly bullied in my youth for many years, and today they will stand down.
Yeah. It's hard because, especially in places, I mean, violence occurs everywhere, and you don't want to exacerbate violence, but at the same time, if we don't stand up for ourselves, if we don't stand up for our rights, and if we don't stand up for each other, you know, that's what a sad world this becomes, and we allow the bullies and the aggressors to rule our lives. um, I did actually want to stand up in the theatre and applaud everybody and say thank you to all of those who stood up with me to stop this bullying. But unfortunately, I can't thank any of you because none of you did, because you all sat in your seats cowering and afraid to escalate. And I can understand why people would be afraid to escalate. And I can understand why people say, there were probably 200 people in this theatre. I can understand why people would say, oh, it's not my business. Well, guess what? It's not your business until it becomes your business, because you could be the next person somebody bullies or somebody attacks, and you would hopefully want other people to stand up for you. When we look at all of the great wars that we've had, I'm thinking of Hitler. The Hitler movement was going on for years and years before he, went to war with whoever it was he first went to war with, and people, people around, people who were there would look the other way, and they would be intimidated, and consequently, that's how bullies get into power, because everybody looks the other way and says, well, it's not my business. It's nothing to do with me. That's a great phrase. It's nothing to do with me. Well, guess what? If we allow this, it becomes everything to do with you. It becomes everything to do with all of us. So, you know, I'm not an advocate of violence, and I'm not an advocate of dealing with bullies in a violent way, but I am an advocate of standing up and saying your piece calmly, politely, and clearly. And that is what I did. And every single person in that theatre heard me loud and clear. They heard this guy, who's a huge guy looming over me, sort of as spitting curses, and you're probably wondering what happened. Why did that happen? Well, I very politely, when the movie comes up, we had waited a year to see this sequel of the Wicked, and oh God, it was good. And the first was good, and the second was really good. We'd waited a long time, and it clearly says on the screen, please turn off your cell phones, no texting, no chatting, etc., etc. And I had a family in front of me, mother, daughter, and father, who they were all on their phones, which didn't bother me. But the guy had his screen really bright, and every time I looked at the screen, his phone was bright, bright light in especially in my right ear, blinding me, and it was unfair. So I just leaned over very politely, and I think all of you will know I'm a very polite person. Could you please turn off your cell phone? And he ignored me completely and carried on. I mean, it was so clear and so bright. I could read the text that he was sending to this person and the text he was sending to them. I mean, it was so clear and bright in my eyes. So I let it go for 10, 15 minutes, and then, excuse me, could you please turn that off? politely, nicely. And, the normal response of any normal and decent human being would have been to turn around and say, well, I'm awfully sorry. I didn't realize I was disturbing you, and turn it off. And his normal response was to wait 10 minutes and then lumber out of his seat. He was, as I say, he was a big man, broad, heavy built guy, and proceeded to come up the stairs, lean over me in an intimidating way, and scream and scream and rage. And there was not one person in that theatre who didn't hear it. You could never, not one person in that theatre could turn around and say, oh, sorry, I didn't know, I didn't hear. Or if I'd have known, I'd have stood up. Everyone heard it. But unlike anyone else that he could have chosen in that theatre to do that to, I sat quietly, I listened, I didn't react until he'd finished, and then he got it. And my daughter was trying to climb over the seat of her friend to get to me, and don't talk to my mother like that. But anyway, could it have escalated? Yes, of course it could. But I kept my cool, and I certainly wasn't intimidated. And the more I wasn't intimidated, the more my reaction was calm and polite, but very firm and very clear, the more angry and upset that he got. And this went on, I'm going to say, for well over half an hour. This thing was going on and on, because he just couldn't leave it alone, and he couldn't stop yelling at me and screaming at me. And so if anyone is listening to this who's in that theatre, if anyone heard this story, because I am sure there were people on their phones filming this, for all of you out there who don't stand up, well done you. Or wait, I can't thank you though, can I? Well done you, but no thanks to you. That I survived this. My 12-year-old grandson, well done you for allowing children all over that theatre to be intimidated by this ugly, ugly, ugly bully. But after it's all over, Reese was gripping hold of my hand. He said, are you okay, Mosey? And I said, we got two choices here. We can, let this upset us. We can walk out of the theatre. We don't want to stay here anymore. I understand. But there's a second option, which is we came here, we've waited here. Why don't we just enjoy the movie and have a good time? And so I gave him the option, which would you like to do? And he said, stay and enjoy the movie. And so positive thinking, good attitude, and just, and anyway, there we are, all sorted out. And was I shaking in my shoes? No. And I do get why people do shake in their shoes. A lady came up to me afterwards, the lady who was sitting next to him, and asked me if I was okay. And then said, I was trembling so hard, I was shaking so hard. And I'm thinking, and your husband was sitting next to you and he knew this, but he did nothing. He stood up and he said nothing. If we don't stand up and if we don't say anything, then we deserve the bullies to rule the world, don't we? Because if we don't stand up and if we don't take responsibility for what's happening in this world, then the bullies and the cheats and the liars and all of those people, we allow them to get away with this behavior. And yes, I'm one person. Yes, we're individually, we're all just one person. But collectively, if we stand up collectively and stand up without the bullying, without the screaming, without the yelling, and calmly but matter of factly deal with these things, when we do this collectively, we have power. And I've always said, and you'll see it in my books, I've always said it takes one small person to rock the world. And I'm thinking about Jesus, that one small person who gathered his disciples around him and had people who defended him, who, I mean, how many centuries ago was that? And look, he's still rocking our world. We have to stand up to the bullies, but we don't have to escalate the violence. We just have to stand up calmly and say, don't do that. Don't do that. Anyway, Chris, are there questions? Are there? Let's moving on. We're not going to discuss that anymore. Moving on, and sort of, it's been a while, and I want to know about everybody else's Christmas. Did you have good food, etc. and etc.? I made some ribs. We had friends over a week or so ago. I've had a friend staying with me for a couple of weeks. Actually, when I arrived back after I'd been to New York, when I arrived back, she was in the house. I mean, talk about taking over. And so she's here and she's lovely. We're having a lovely time, and she's going to be leaving at the weekend. And then Chris and I, we have our work cut out for us because we are taping, we are filming, we are getting all of our ducks in a row so that we can start our program, our not conscription, sorry, prescription program. We're starting that on the 1st of March, so we're excited about that. And so we're in the process of sort of, dotting the I's and crossing the T's so that we can get on with it. We're excited about it. Valentine's Day is coming up, and we already see the ads, and we're already getting inundated with, uh, what is it? People are asking us, do you want to take a trip here? And all of those people who live in sales will know. Here we are. Christmas is over. New Year's gone. Done and dusted. Let's move on to Valentine's Day. So we probably will be having a show for Valentine's Day, but we're going to be focusing our efforts and concentrating our efforts on the subscription program as well. So some fun stuff coming up. Chris.
We have a first-time person here named Furiette saying, it's the first time seeing you live, and I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, we're so glad for you to be here. What was the name again?
Furiet, Furiette.
Furiette. Well, we hope we're pronouncing it properly. And welcome. And what's the question?
No question yet.
Oh, there's no question. Well, that's okay. So keep going, Chris.
Let's see. Violet's next.
Hi, Violet. Good morning, my darling.
A dear friend, Sue, said goodbye to their beloved dog, Ruby, yesterday.
Ooh.
To make it more painful, it was Sue's birthday. Could you say a few words I can share with them just to let them know Ruby's okay?
Well, Ruby is okay, obviously. And, I suppose, we tend to view death as a tragedy, a tragedy. I never say that word. And for us, of course, it is, because we lose our loved ones, and it's very painful for us, and it's very hard for us. But when someone passes into the spirit world, whether it's human or animal, because our pets sort of are. They are our family too, and once they pass, it becomes a celebration for them. So for every birthday, I will go and suggest that your friend Sue, for every birthday, maybe lights a little candle and celebrates the fact that, that her beloved puppy chose that day, or someone chose that day for her, for him, because it's special. And so, instead of being sad that it's the birthday, I know it's sad. I know it's hard. I've been there, done that. It's really painful to lose, especially to lose our beloved pets. But life and death they're celebrations, and we should celebrate them. Chris.
Patricia says, Dear Rosemary, a family member passed away recently. Can you tell me if he made it safely into the spirit world?
Well, I'm listening to Greg as I'm talking, and I've got one word. I've got one word answer for you, but it's joyful. It's a joyful word. Yes, yes. Please don't worry. He's fine. Yes, Chris.
Barbara says, how do we fly in the spiritual world? I don't think we grow wings or fly like Superman.
No, not really. No, it's all about energy, and oh, I was thinking, what? How can I give you an example? And do you remember? Some of you are maybe far too young to remember. I can't even. What was it? When you know the phrase. The phrase. If I say the phrase, "Beam me up, Scotty," you'll know what I'm talking about. And they used to go into a like a cylinder. Zzz, it's about the energy, moving energy from one spot to another. And you know, when you consider that we are that energy, and that we can literally move from one spot to another if we're using our energy. And you know, if you think of it as that concept, it's, you know, people often say to me, "Well, how is it possible that someone in the spirit world can be in two places at once?" Or it seems that they're in two places at once. And that sort of, even though it seems like it's in two places at once, there might be a little nanosecond from this place to this place. And for us, in our world, that's little nanosecond seems to be almost non-existent. You know, our loved ones, when they visit us, do seem to be in two places at once. It's about energy, and it's about energy shifting and moving. And this is why we're so excited about our prescription course, because we're going to be learning all about that stuff. And we're going to be talking about the stuff that, you know, we don't have, we either don't have time to talk about, or it's difficult to understand some of the concepts of how this spirit world works, and how our world works in conjunction with the spirit world. So the prescription program is going to be, we're going to be going into much more detail. And also once a month we're going to have a chance, everybody's going to have a chance to, you know, come on line, come on Zoom and ask questions, and what have you. So it's going to be a very, very informative um, course. Uh, uh, I'm not going to be a teacher, just so you say. I'm not going to be a teacher, although Gregel and I will be teaching you. We will be sharing information with you. Whether you use that information is up to you. No homework, no nothing. Your choice to do with the information what you will. So we're not going to be holding your feet to the fire, or saying to you, you need to write an essay and put it in. You can make as little effort or as much effort as you want with this course, which is great. But it also means that I do not have the headache of, you know, rapping my students on the knuckles and saying, where is your homework? Because we're not going to be doing any of that. So, but it's going to be a very, very, I think, very, very interesting course. Of course, Chris is helping me to film all of this. Chris, you might want to say one or two words here about, because Chris and I've known Chris for 30 years. She's been my student for all of that length of time. So you would think she's got nothing more to learn, haha. And you would think also I've got nothing more to learn. I've been doing this for lots of years. And so I'm going to ask Chris, are you learning anything as we're working on this subscription course, Chris?
Everything I've heard so far keeps the wheels turning, and it just broadens and deepens everything that you've already taught me. I mean, the world is full of learning forever and ever and ever. It's amazing what I've seen so far.
Right. Well, it's like also, you know, it's very difficult for us because sometimes Chris and I, when we're planning, I'm planning this. When I say we are planning this, Grey Eagle and I are planning this. We're planning it out. We're planning, what we're going to film this week and what we're going to do for next week and so on. It takes a great deal of planning and effort, as you can imagine, and also a great deal of ingenuity. But the danger is sometimes Chris will get caught up on there. Well, when he says that, does that mean this and this? And we end up having discussions rather than getting on with the filming of it, or rather than getting on with the doing of it. So we have to be, or I have to say, enough discussion. Let's get on with it and let's do it. But it's so easy to get wrapped up in the content of what we're doing that we forget that we're supposed to be doing it, right, Chris? It's like, oops, wait a minute.
Amazing. It's going to be amazing for all the people who have already signed up. I
I
mean, all
hope
they have
so.
to do is email the office if they want to be included in the
Yeah,
subscription program.
you email the office, Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com. You all know how to spell it. I'm not going to, if you're on here, you know how to reach me. And then you put in the subject line, I keep wanting to say conscription, which is not, of course, but with subscription course, all you have to do is put in the subject line course or subscription or whatever you want, and we'll know immediately that, oh, you belong there, and we can see to you quicker, we can reply to you quicker, etc., etc., etc. And it's a very simple process. We've tried to make it as simple as we possibly can, not just for all of you, but for us as well. Keep going, Chris. Let's
All right.
keep going.
Furiat did leave you a question.
Okay.
I want to ask suggestions to better improve our hearing toward God's bidding. I want to do the Lord's will, but how can I learn to better understand what that is? I guess
Ah,
it's correlated with the exceptional sensitivity Rosemary has.
uh, I love this question. I love where you're going with this. And if you go onto YouTube, you will see, go into my channel on YouTube. Yes, I do. For those of you who are not sure, yes, I do have a channel on YouTube, and you go into that channel and you'll see there are lots of different exercises. There are some healing exercises. We talk about learning and listening and so on and so forth. And we are going to be doing more of that throughout the year, sort of doing more, maybe, not necessarily webinars, but sort of lessons here and there that you can join in on. But it's about, really, the most important thing is finding, and probably the most difficult thing is finding 10 minutes of every day. Now, I know we know that it's easy, don't we? We know that we've got 24 hours in the day, and if we can't find 10 minutes in that day, within that day, to focus on our spiritual growth, our spiritual learning, if we can't find 10 minutes in that day to connect with our loved ones in the spirit world, then, what are we about? Come on, we know how easy it is, except that we allow life to get in our way. We allow the phone rings, and you're starting to do one thing. I mean, let me tell you, one day this last week, I had it in my head. I'm an organized person, and I have to make a plan. And I had it in my head. Okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And by the time I'd finished with phone calls and interruptions and things going on here and things going on there, instead of my this, and this list taking the morning, it took most of the day because I kept being interrupted. When we're finding that 10 minutes, we're looking for that 10 minutes, and it seems to be difficult. What we have to do is we have to allot 10 to 15 minutes of every day. Yeah, just increase it by 5 minutes. Did you notice that? So 10 to 15 minutes of every day, when we have to allot it to putting ourselves in a room where there are no disturbances, no phone calls to disturb us. If somebody knocks on the door, we can't hear it or we ignore it. We have to be very strict with finding that 10 to 15 minutes of every day to do absolutely nothing but focus and not allow the outside world to interfere. So that's the first thing we have to learn to do. But please go to the YouTube channel. You'll see lots of different exercises that can help you with that. And just keep tuning in, because we're always doing something and helping people to focus more, and how to do it and what we need to do it and so on. And we're always giving out little exercises here and there. Okay, Chris.
Rhonda wants to know, does Gray Eagle stand with you and give you strength in a situation like the one you experienced in New York City?
Of course, but you see, here we are. I'm talking about Grey Eagle, right? And of course he does. Of course he stands with me. And my father stands with me. It's called not just having faith, it's living your faith and knowing that, whatever is God's will is in that moment going to happen. We don't go blithely and recklessly into situations, but calmly and quietly, and knowing absolutely that they have my back helps me. But you also, every individual on this planet has someone standing with them, whether it's a father, a grandfather, a mother who's caring. We all have our loved ones in the spirit world who are standing with us and making, absolute certain that, you know, we are unharmed. I'm saying that. No, and you're going to say yes, but people do get hurt all the time. But I'm talking about unharmed in a spiritual sense, um, unharmed in a physical sense. Yes. Well, you cross the street any day of the week, you can be harmed in that way. But um, you know, my father was an army man all of his life, and he had different rules and different sayings. And he would say to me, before you step onto the battlefield, be careful, think carefully. Um, don't step onto a battlefield unless you're prepared to fight to the death. That doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to put yourself in harm's way or you're going to be killed or what have you. But basically, only step onto a battlefield. If it's a battle that you believe in, it's a battle that you feel strongly in, and it's a battle you feel that you should fight. So before you step onto the battlefield, think carefully. Is this a battle that I need to fight? If the answer is yes, then get onto that battlefield and fight that battle until you've won, or you've lost and you're bloody, but at least you tried your best and you fought for what you believe in. Before you get onto the battlefield, he also cautioned me, make sure that it's a battle worth fighting. And this is the problem with what's going on today. Everybody turns away. It's nothing to do with me. It's not my business. And yeah, well, that's what happened with Hitler. That's what happened with Pol Pot. That's what happens with all of those, the despots of the world. This is what happens. Ordinary, everyday people who think they don't have any power do have power. We have collective power. We have mind power. There are lots of ways in which we can fight. It doesn't have to be physically. I make it a rule. I'm hoping that none of you is ever going to come up against the deadly side of me. And the deadly side of me is the very quiet and the very calm. And before I go into battle, for whatever reason, before I go into battle, I will be icy calm. I never curse. I never swear. I never get angry. I never, lose my temper, because I'm an icy calm, because now I'm getting ready for battle. And any good soldier will tell you that it's the calm, perhaps before the storm, but it's the calm, and you need to stay calm and focused and have a strategy. And so, um, if it's a battle, if you come across a battle, and it's worth fighting for. And I would say that when somebody stands over you, looming and intimidating and frightening your grandchild, and almost spitting in your face with the venom that he's spewing, and I mean venom that he's spewing, and expecting me to cower under him, as perhaps lots of other people have done. When that to me is worth standing up for, and not allowing. absolutely not allowing. And it's amazing because when you stand up, you see that bully is, first of all, shocked that you're standing up, and you see that now he's confused. And what do I do now? And as I've said, he had very limited vocabulary. He used the F word a lot. He used the B word a lot, a lot, screaming that I was all of these things, uh, telling me to mind my own business when he'd actually made it my business, unfortunately. And then when he'd finished, I just let him have it. And it's interesting. They have nowhere else to go. They've said what they have to say. They're screaming and raging. It's not having an effect. I'm not sitting in my chair crying and shaking or any of those things. Just let him wait for him to finish. Let him have it. I chose to step onto the battlefield, and let's put it this way, annihilated my enemy. And the fact that he stamped off the battlefield and started screaming and raging at me again for another 10 minutes. And I'm going to point out again, while everybody stood around and watched, nobody stood up and protected their children. Nobody said to him, hey, watch your language. Nobody said, don't speak to her like that. Nobody said a word. Everybody sat in their chairs and said, nothing to do with me. Yeah, I'm not getting involved. You never know what's going to happen. I'm not getting involved. Well, that's when we are overrun by the despots of this world, by the bullies of this world, by the Hitlers of this world. That's when we are overrun by these evil people, spewing evil and spewing vitriol. I'm going to say one more thing, because we know in America right now and in the world, we have this awful political scene, and I'm absolutely shocked and appalled when I hear people compare Trump, for instance, to Hitler and the Nazis. And I need to say to all of you people out there who think that it's okay to do this, you need to get a grip. And it's an insult to all of those people who suffered. It's an insult to all of those people in the concentration camps who went through true hell and true evil. Back off, be nicer about things. All right, you don't agree with him, that's fine. Don't agree with him. Stand up in the right way, in the right channels, do the right thing. But stop throwing your evil insults. Stop being vitriolic. Stop allowing your base emotions to take over your common sense. This is, and it's not, I'm not just talking about Trump, I'm talking about other politicians, and on both sides, everybody's allowed their viewpoint. It's amazing. Everybody comes to America because it's the land of the home and the free, and all of a sudden it's not free. All of a sudden there are consequences like this, and people are screaming and raging against each other. We need to be kinder. What does Gregor say to us? Your world needs gentleness. And where is it? And we need to bring that back, and we need to remind people, if you have something against whoever it is, politicians or whoever, there are channels and there are ways to make yourself heard, and there are ways to stand on a battlefield without the insults. And stop, all of you out there, stop comparing politicians to one of the most evil human beings, and he and his cohorts, who burned people, gassed people in the ovens by the millions. Stop it. You're not, it's not worthy of you. You become as bad. It's not worthy of you, and it's disrespectful to all of those amazing people who fought Hitler, and who risked their lives, and who were in the gas chambers, uh, facing true evil, real evil. And, by all means, fight your battles. If you don't agree with the political climate, by all means, get on the battlefield and fight your battles. But do it in a way that we can respect you, and do it in a way that makes sense. I just got on my little podium then, didn't I? I made a little speech. And I'm backing off now. I'm not doing any more of that. Chris?
I was going to ask you though,
Yes.
When you disagree with the establishment, wherever it
Yes.
is,
Yes.
what actually would be the best way to bring about change using your energy?
Well, you can gather with people who are like-minded, and I don't mean people who throw insults and use vitriol, because that's not going to get you anywhere. It's just going to get you deeper into a cesspit of hate. And use your common sense. I would tell people, you know, I just was describing, when I go into battle before, before I'm thinking even of stepping onto the battlefield. And those who have seen me, and Chris, you might have seen me maybe once in all the years that I've known you. Sort of, it's almost like I retract back and I think about what I'm doing, and I think about the best ways to deal with things, and not to be antagonistic, but to be firm and to say, no, you do not. You do not get to treat me this way. No. And you're firm about it, but there are lots of different channels. There are newspapers, there are groups of people. You can write letters. You can, we are, as individuals, we're just small little human beings. We can't necessarily affect change, but when we gather together and we group together with like-minded people, and I don't mean the people who are vicious and mean and nasty, when we get together with like-minded people who are on the same page as us, we can affect change without being violent about it, without being cruel about it, and without being vicious about it. We can affect change, and that's the way that we should do it. Okay. Um, let's keep going.
Mary says, my mom helped me with a home issue. Mom is my rainbow. Please, do you have any messages from Gray Eagle?
Just keep doing what you're doing, Mary. Keep doing what you're doing, because you're really beginning to shine, aren't you? You're really beginning to find your confidence now a little bit, and you have the support of the spirit world. Keep doing what you're doing and be proud of what you're doing. Chris.
Annika says, I hope this incident did not overshadow the good time you had with your family. It
Oh.
does take some courage to stand up.
No, it did not overshadow it, because as I think I pointed out, I talked to my grandson. I said, we can do two things. We've got two choices here. We can, say, okay, we're done with this, and ruin what we've waited 12 months to do together as a family. Or we can just put that incident, because honestly, as horrible as it was in the half hour or so that it, maybe 40 minutes that it lasted, as awful as it was, you can allow it to affect you. You can allow it to, make you feel angry, or you can stew or be, whatever. And, or you can honestly not let it invade what is important to you. And this is where energy comes in, and this is where a good attitude comes in. Uh, and I gave Reese two choices. We can let it ruin, or we can leave the theatre because it's now spoiled for us, or we can put this incident to one side, because this man was not worth, he was not worth any more of my time or my energy. I said my piece. He was totally shocked. I'm sure everybody in the theatre was also totally shocked, because I was very clear, and I know how to throw my voice. I know how to carry my voice. I know, and I know how to, I know what I'm saying, and I don't do it and I do it with grace, and I do it with determination. And there's not one person in that theatre who didn't hear the determination and the positivity of me saying, because he kept pointing, screaming at me, you don't know who I am. And eventually, when he'd run out of words and when he'd run out of breath, I turned the table and said, and you don't know who I am. And, if I'd have told him, maybe he would have trembled a little bit. I did smile about it afterwards, I have to say. And you have made it my business. It is my business. So I just stood up to the bully. and he slunk back to his seat, which I was pleased to see. And when the lights came up in the theatre later, he slunk, and his wife and his daughter was giving me the dead eye a little bit at first. But the parents slunk out of the theatre, put hoods over their faces and coats on, hoods over their heads, and sort of crouched and literally slunk like rats out of the theatre. And that's how they behaved. That's an insult to rats, I'm going to tell you, because rats are usually, pretty nice creatures. If you've ever watched Ratatouille, you'll know that that's true. And they just slunk out there. It was almost as if they were afraid that people might recognize who they were. The wife didn't stand up. Maybe she's used to that treatment. I don't know. I'm hoping that what I'm saying if you're in an abusive relationship, I'm hoping that I'm giving you a little courage to stand up and say enough of that. Um, anyway, we can go this to a far too big a subject, but please, if you have a child, if you're a school teacher, if you're in education anyway, you can't say no bullying. We can't have a no bullying rule unless we are ourselves as individuals prepared to stand up and say, no, you're not bullying me. As adults, we get bullied, as we know, all the time, or there are people who try to bully us all the time. And if you have a point of view, I'm willing to listen to it, even if it's opposite to my point of view. I am very willing to listen to it, as long as you're not screaming and cursing in my face. I'm certainly willing to sit down and listen to your point of view, but not if you're aggressive. And if you treat other people in an aggressive way, or you start shouting and screaming, you've lost the fight. You've lost it. Because nobody's going to value what you say, because all they hear is the person who's out of control, cursing and swearing and having no vocabulary that's worth listening to. And so I was able to brush it off, and I was able, hopefully, to help Reese to brush it off too. And but I was also, giving him an example. And his mother was furious. I have to say, my daughter was not sitting there passively. She was trying to climb over her friend to get to me, just in case, she was worried for me. And her friend kept pushing her back down in her seat, saying, no, 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 we can't. Would have been nice if every man in that place had stood up. It would have been really nice if every woman and man in that place had stood up and said, you need to get out of here. No bullying in this theatre, no bullying in front of my child. Would have been great if everybody had stood up and given their children a great example of what it's like when we all stand together and say, we're not having this. So, but it's everybody's choice, and there we are. But no vitriol, no meanness, no nastiness. And when you resort to all of that, you lose, because you just make yourself look like as this guy did, a pathetic man with no real vocabulary, and so therefore not worth listening to. Chris, keep going. Let's get off this subject now. I don't want any more questions about this. This is it for now. We should probably revisit it another time, but for now, we've said enough.
All right, this is from Natalie.
Okay.
I was very lucky to recently see my dad in a dream. He has been gone for 21 years.
Oh,
He lived to be 95.
Wow.
I saw him in my dream as a 30-year-old. He was like a soldier on the other side. He held gold coins, which represented world leaders.
Oh, nice.
I didn't recognize my dad as a 30-year-old. He turned sideways so I could see his profile to let me know it was him. It was unbelievable. Do you have any comments?
No, I'm just thrilled. That's my comment. I'm thrilled for you. Thrilled for you. Keep going, Chris.
Mark says, I'm starting to make beads, glass ones, and connecting them to make strands of beads. My dad's mom taught me many years ago. We made rosaries for the missions. I've forgotten how, for it's been well over 50 years. Her anniversary of her passing was this past Sunday. She passed in 1994. Has she been watching over me? We were very close for I moved in to care for her and grandfather for 5 years. I'd love to know if she has a message.
Mark, you know perfectly well that she's watching over you. I'm very interested in the beads and the rosaries. I've always had a fascination for rosaries. I've sort of often envied, when I see people with them and they use them as worry beads and so on. And I've always been fascinated by that side of things. So I'm glad that you're finding this, it'll be therapeutic for you, and you know that she's watching you, you know that she's watching over you, and you know that she's trying to guide and steer you. So how wonderful is that for you, Chris?
Linda Ann says, this was my first Christmas without my husband. I was
Oh,
hoping to feel him around me, but I didn't.
well, I'm sorry, what's the name of this person?
Linda Ann.
Linda. Linda, it's very, first of all, uh, my heart does go out because I know how, tough these situations are. Um, I would say that it's not so much the fact that your husband wasn't around you, but our grief often, when we're grieving, it sort of can act almost as a barrier, so that our loved ones are there and they're surrounding us. But because our grief is such and the energy of that grief is such, it sort of blinds us to the fact that they are with us. So that I think that the chances are, and Gregor is actually agreeing with me here, so I can say with certainty, I know that your husband is with you, and I know that he was with you at Christmas time. But when we're having such a painful time, and our energy is such that we sort of, it's almost like we put a cloud around ourselves and we can't quite see through it because of the grief. It's not that they're not there; it's that we just are not we're not able to see them or to feel them or to sense them right now because of our excuse me, because of our distress. So he's with you, no doubt. Chris.
Kathy says, hi, Rosemary. My Tia passed
Hi,
almost
Kathy.
2 weeks ago.
Who?
Everyone is
I'm
really
sorry.
missing her. Can
So
you
I
please
didn't.
tell us if she has landed safely?
Yeah, I didn't hear what you said. Who passed?
My Tia, Tia.
Okay. Um, oh, well, right back from Grey Eagle, and I didn't even understand the question, but obviously he did, safe and sound. So, when you're in a plane and the plane's coming down, the pilot is saying prepare for landing, whatever, because they first of all they say get ready for takeoff, and now Grey Eagle is describing prepare for landing. So I'm actually getting the image of this plane prepare for landing and nice and smooth landing, and I'm hearing this lovely lady but standing by the side of Gregor saying, safe and sound, safe and sound. Okay, Chris.
Um, Miri Nix. Miri Nix says, hi, Rosemary.
Hi.
Can you communicate with nonverbal autistic people? My adult son, verbal, is very agitated lately. Not sure what's wrong. His name is Jojo. Can you
Hi.
speak to him or hear his thoughts?
Absolutely. We yes, because the way we speak to people, I often go to visit people who are in comas, and we think there's no communication, but there they are. Behind the eyes, you see the etheric body. You're able to talk to that person. There's nothing dead or blank or disabled or deformed in any way behind the physical, behind the eyes, as I often put it. So it is possible to communicate with them and to help them, and to even to have a conversation with them so that they can tell you that they are. What is going on. I don't know if you have heard me talk at one point, and in fact, we had I had a client whose son Thomas was very disabled, and she actually called me for a consultation, and she had all these questions. Thomas can't communicate. He is in a wheelchair at this point, and he can't speak, can't, and we don't even know if he can hear us. But I saw Tomas quite clearly, but I saw he came to me in his etheric body, let's say in his spirit state. And she had all these questions. One of the questions I'll always remember is, what are his favorite foods to eat? And he immediately said ice cream. And she laughed because the doctor had just been the day before, a couple of days before, to say ice cream isn't good for him. You can't give him ice cream. And he was saying, yeah, but I want it. And so it's a funny situation. So, yes, it is possible for people like myself to communicate with those who have difficulty for whatever reason in communicating on a physical level. And we connect with the spirit and we connect with that. In much the same way that we connect with anyone who has passed into the spirit world. You don't have to be physically present to communicate with someone, and you also don't have to have that person physically able as opposed to disable. uh, you don't have to, you have that in order to communicate with them. Yes. Okay, Chris.
All right. Meta Chat Mess is getting some help in the chat room because she's a non-English speaker. So thank you,
Oh,
Furiette. The question she has is, she has read your books and would like to know about her grandpa.
and we are at time almost, and so unfortunately we can't do that, but wherever he is, I'm sure he's safe, I'm sure he's well, and I'm sure he's watching over you. Absolutely. Keep going, Chris.
In 2009, this is from Diane. In 2009, I was going through an ugly divorce, and my attorney said we were at a dead end in figuring out my ex's finances
Oh,
because of the way his income was structured. I was feeling despondent and sat down to read your book as a distraction. While I was reading, I got an unexpected call from an old business partner of my ex, and he agreed to help my attorney figure it out. I have always suspected that Gray Eagle had something to do with this. Is that true? Did Gray
you
Eagle
could,
send the help I needed?
you look. uh and you're reading my book, of course. Yeah, well, is it true? Yes, of course it is, because Grey Eagle has many helpers. And so, it's possible that the helpers get sent out to people who know me or know him well and are asking him for help. And yes, we get lots of incidents like this, and we get lots of people telling us this. So I just think it's wonderful. I think your own loved ones in the spirit world probably have a lot to do with sort of, giving a nudge to that ex-business partner, giving a nudge and saying she needs a call from you, then then there it is. It's amazing. uh you know how, wait a minute, the spirit world sees all, and that is the show. And we're trying to show all of you that the spirit world actually not only sees all, but is also able to, um, you know, share their energy to, they're able to guide and steer us. Of course, we have to listen, we have to pay attention. But the spirit world is when they're not all sitting up there on a cloud playing a harp. It's just, the spirit world is busy. Your loved ones in the spirit world are busy trying to help you and trying to guide you. They tap you on the shoulder. You have these small thoughts that run through your mind. You think, where did that thought come from? Well, we know where it came from, because it came from above. So, use that ability, pay attention, listen. That if you go to YouTube and find some of the exercises, there'll be listen to the heartbeat of your soul. And well, how do we do that? And we've done lots of things. You can find out how to listen to the heartbeat of your soul by going to YouTube and checking out all of the information that is there on my channel. Chris, anything else? Because
Leslie
I know that we are very close to time. So,
Leslie from Arizona is saying, "Did you and Rosemary get your T-shirts? I hope they didn't get lost in the mail."
Oh, Oh, I'm so glad, and we did, and I loved it. Your world needs gentleness. I loved it. I loved it. And thank you so very, very much. Arizona is one of my most favorite places in the world. And of course, Gradle came from there and lived there, and his people lived there and hid out in the Superstition Mountains, and on and on. I could go about Arizona, but that was so, so sweet of you to do that. And thank you so very, very much. Thank you. Okay,
Last
Chris.
one from
Yes.
Dean. When you
Hey,
speak to
wait,
people,
wait, 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 wait. I hope you made the Christmas cake this year. I've still got a little of mine left. But I'm a bit, I don't want to share it because I like it too much. I took sent a Christmas cake to my daughter. Then we ate quite a bit of it, and then I brought some of it back home with me, so I'm still eating it. But did you make yours, Dean? Anyway, I hope so. I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris. Give the question.
when you speak to people in the spirit world, do you see their lips move or do they speak telepathically?
In every way possible. I see them speaking, I see them laughing, I see them, and sometimes it's a telepathic thing. Very often it's a combination of all of those things, and hands. I talk with my hands. There's people who, as you're talking, I have to keep my hands tucked down here so that I'm not. My hands are not waving all over the place, but in every way we communicate just as we do here on this earth. Yes, good question, Dean. I like that question. So yes, and okay, we are at time. I've got things to do, places to go, people to meet. And I think I might be going out with my friend Susan, and we might be having a pina colada. We might go for happy hour. You never know. It's so funny because I always used to think that happy hour was sort of 6 o'clock, or when the sun went over the yard arm or whatever. But here in Florida, we have this one really cool restaurant, and happy hour starts from 2:30 till 4. So we might be heading there. A pina colada and a nice, nice plate of hot, crispy calamari, and that will be my lunch for today. Oh my goodness. Right. Well, yes, we have a friend joining us who thinks we're going for ribs, but if she's listening to this, we're not going for ribs. We're going for we go we're going to the dock side, because that's where Susan wants to go, and she's the visitor here. So we're going to do what she wants us to do. Anyway, I hope that all of you have a wonderful rest of the day. Please, please, all of you, don't be afraid to step on the battlefield. Do it calmly. Do it firmly. Do it so people absolutely know that this is who you are. But there's no need to, and cut all of you who are screaming and raging and saying horrible things about other people. Cut it out. Just cut it out. We've got enough of that going on. Our world needs gentleness, and that's what we should be focusing on most as we go through our lives. Please, everyone, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Chris, for doing what you're doing. Especially thank you to Great Eagle for all that he does. It's been great finally getting back to work from our vacation time. Please, everyone, have a very blessed rest of the day and have a very blessed weekend, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye bye, everybody. Bye bye.